Okay. All right, folks. Welcome to our April 2023 Bikevist Forum. We're going to be talking about Bay Trail equitable access with our speaker, Lily Brown, tonight from the MTC. So first up, if you haven't already, please rename yourself, put your city in your name, and if you're comfortable, put in your pronouns. And then if you want to go ahead and drop in the chat a quick question of how many wheels do you ride on the Bay Trail? And while we're doing that, I'll run through the agenda real quickly here. So we're a little bit behind. So we've already started the rename yourself and how many wheels. I'm going to go through a quick introduction and our meeting guidelines because we're going to have hopefully a robust discussion tonight. Then we're going to hear from Lily Brown from the MTC on, there's actually two projects going on. She'll give us a brief overview of both of them and tell us which one we're focusing on tonight. And then we're gonna, we have some prompt questions that'll lead us in the discussion, a couple of word association, word cloud things, wrap up, Bike Month announcements, and then you guys will be off into your breakout rooms. So first up, our meeting guidelines. We want to make space, take space, be aware of how much you're talking versus listening and allow others to speak up, especially important in our listening session this afternoon or this evening, because if you answer a question, try for the next question to just listen and hear others speak before speaking up. We want to be respectful of one another and all of our differences. Please don't interrupt. We're going to be kind of doing a free form, unmute yourself talk. So try to be respectful there. Stay on topic. We love anecdotes, but please keep them short so we can hear from everybody. And then assume good intent. All right. Next up is Lily. Lily, did you want me to, are you going to screen share your slideshow?
Yeah, if you have it already here, that's fine. Either way for me.
Okay, I just made you a co-host, so if you want to screen share, that would be awesome.
Okay, actually,
I have to stop that, I think.
Heather, is it actually possible for you to screen share?
Oh, yes, it is.
Sorry, I said either
Give me
way.
a minute.
Easier.
All right, everybody's gonna see my stuff here. I gotta move the bar. There we go. Can everyone see that?
I can. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay, great. All right, take it away, Lily.
Thanks, Heather, and sorry everyone for being late and getting us started a little later. I'm Lily, and I'm a planner on MTC's Bay Trail team and leading the Bay Trail equity strategy that I'm going to talk about tonight here, and just appreciate Silicon Valley Bike Coalition for being a partner on this project and for hosting this listening session tonight and having me here. So I guess I'm gonna have to say next slide to you, Heather. So sorry about that. But yeah, if you can go to the next slide so I can just give an overview of the agenda. So I'll first talk about MTC's equity approach, which is like the overall organization's equity approach and how that has influenced these projects that I'll talk about today. And then I'll go through the new vision for the Bay Trail that's influenced by the MTC's equity approach, and then go into the overview of the Bay Trail equity strategy. And I actually have this agenda to update. It's a lot of order. There's also the Bay Trail gap closure implementation plan, which is another project that's having a concurrent process. And I'll just give a brief overview of that and kind of how it's different than this, but how they interact with each other. So next slide. So yeah, just to kind of step back and give a grounding of this project. When Therese McMillan came to MTC, I think around 2018 or in 2019, she brought this equity approach to the agency. And so it's an adopted platform that we were supposed to address equity throughout all of the agency's work. And so it's a process and a practice to advance equity through everything that MTC does. And that means centering equity in all of our planning, investment, design, engagement, communications, marketing, evaluation, and project delivery efforts. And MTC defines equity as inclusion into the Bay Area where everyone can participate, prosper, and reach their full potential. And so the platform is really based on this commitment to meaningfully reverse disparities in access and dismantle systemic exclusion in the region. And so with last year, MTC then also created an Office of Accessibility, Culture, Race, and Equity, and that focuses at the agency-wide level and supports equity outcome work throughout the agency, and then supports staff on individual project level. So that's the platform. And next slide. And so with this platform, we worked with Therese and she put together a new vision for the Bay Trail that's influenced by the equity platform and also Plan Bay Area 2050. And so this is really informed by the equity platform and Plan Bay Area 2050, and recognizing that the Bay Trail is not just a standalone asset, but it's really an essential part of our regional infrastructure system and needs to be available for everyone and for a wide variety of travel needs beyond recreation, and that focusing on equity within this is key. And so just going through the historically kind of this focus of the Bay Trail has been pure land recreation, and this new vision is on recreation and also active transportation and public health. And then really the Bay Trail has been focused up until now mostly on completing the loop around the Bay. And the new vision is definitely still to complete the loop, but also focusing on spur and connector facilities and improving equitable access and usage to the trail. And then moving beyond just serving those with easy access to the shoreline, but emphasis on all ages and abilities, and especially on access to the Bay Trail for equity priority communities. And then also not just the design emphasis, not just on the Class 1 multi-use path, but in addition to that, Class 4 protected lanes, quick build protected intersection, really how to move people safely on street to the path. And then before, again, is very focused, decisions focused by recreation, and now expanding that to look at access, equity, and system integration. And so that is kind of what's setting the Bay Trail work program. And so there's a few projects under that. If you go to the next slide, this is the Bay Trail Gap Closure Implementation Plan, which is not what this meeting and listening session tonight is focused on, but just so I know it's of interest to people and just so we can understand like what the different projects are. So the Bay Trail Gap Closure Implementation Plan, the last time there was a gap closure plan was in 2005. So it's very old and not up to date with everything that's been built. And so one of the goals and outcomes will be creating new prioritization criteria and a prioritized list of projects, and bringing in emphasis on access and equity priority communities in that prioritization. And then, updating the inventory of gaps in the Bay Trail network. And then kind of this connects back to the new vision, but enhancing lateral spur and connector trails, and then enhancing access to parks, open space, and natural areas for EPCs. Another outcome is developing a Bay Trail spatial database, and then a cost estimation tool of the gaps that exist, what the cost will be, because that's last time that was done was quite some time ago. And then also for the projects that get ranked at the top, some concept designs to help move them forward. So that's the Bay Trail Gap Closure Implementation Plan. There'll be opportunities to get involved that I can speak to kind of later, but we're going to focus tonight on the Bay Trail Equity Strategy. So you want to go to the next page. So I'll just give, I don't know if everyone got a chance to check this out before the meeting, so I'm just going to give kind of a high level overview, but I think Anthony just shared the link to the website that explains this project more, and then to the actual public facing briefer document that we've published, so that you can check this out in further detail. But the Bay Trail Equity Strategy operationalizes the equity platform within the Bay Trail Work Program. And so the first phase, so this is a direct result of the equity platform that's guiding MTC's work. And this is our first step to operationalize that. And the study, so the first phase was creating a study that combined historic literature review, data analysis, and then interviews from equity priority communities. And the intent was to help Bay Trail decision makers understand and address historic inequities and present day inequities, and kind of ground ourselves in history and how that has produced the inequities that exist today, and then to avoid repeating and reinforcing those mistakes made in the past, and developing a Bay Trail that's truly accessible and welcoming to all. So if you go to next slide. So the research really looked way back into time to pre-colonial time, up until present day, and looked at the socio-political history, indigenous history, ecological history, and Bay Trail history, and how all that fits together, and sets a context, to acknowledge history and the harms, and then historic present day inequities. You go to the next slide. So these are the key themes that emerged from the interviews and from the historic literature review, and then the spatial data analysis. And so this is what came out of it. And the report is really telling that story of the Bay shoreline, the communities that live there, and how the trail is connected to colonialism, white supremacy, segregation, displacement, and cultural erasure. And so all of those themes here point back to this underlying theme of how colonial and whiteness has impacted the shoreline historically and today. If you go to the next slide. And then there's a lot of rich material from the interviews, but just very high level. The takeaways were that interviewees saw that the Bay Trail positively contributed to the health of the region, but that access really varies by community. And some of those barriers include lack of familiarity with access points, and then inadequate public transportation and parking to get you to the trail. And then it's unsafe streets for walking and biking to get to the trail. And so while people really unanimously felt that the Bay Trail was like a positive space for people to get out and be in nature and exercise, and that it's not really viewed as a space for all races, classes, and abilities throughout the region and through different people's experience. Go to the next slide. And so the next steps for the equity strategy project, that first phase that I'm just speaking about, really laid the history, but we only did 12 interviews as part of that. So we wanted to, as a next step, do a lot more engagement with the community and do listening sessions and access audits and events around getting people's feedback about their experience with the Bay Trail, and what barriers exist, and what ideas people have around how to improve not just geographic access, but access like people's sense of belonging at the Bay Trail. So we're partnering with some bicycle coalitions and CBOs, including Silicon Valley Bike Coalition, to host these listening sessions over the next couple months, and then to do some rides and some events out near the trail. And so that's what we're working on now, and that's with a focus on trying to reach equity priority communities and focus our project in those areas around the region. And then eventually, we're really trying to be flexible and not have everything set. And so collecting information and then responding to that as we design the next steps in the equity strategy, but eventually incorporating all of these findings and feedback into an action implementation plan. And then also with all these other projects that we're doing, like the Bay Trail Gap Closure implementation plan, we're incorporating the learnings and equity framework into all of the projects we do. So that's a very high level overview of the project, and I encourage you, when you get a chance, to check out the webpage and the actual document. It's about 20 pages and very graphic. So hopefully a quick, easy to digest read. So thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lily. We're going, as I try to switch to the other, actually just stop sharing, right?
Yes, and I dropped down in the chat links to the MTC equity platform. the gap closure website so you can learn more about that separate project. And if you do want to get more involved in that, and you live in San Mateo County area, please ping Heather and I afterwards so we can touch base and see how we can help Lily with that. And I also dropped a link to our study, to the Bay Trail Equity Strategy paper that Lily referenced.
Great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
sorry, go ahead, Heather.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, yeah, for the Bay Trail Gap Closure Project, there's going to be some engagement around the region that other CBOs are sponsoring, and El Concilio San Mateo, I think, is doing an event on Cinco de Mayo, but I can get more information around that, but that will be in San Mateo.
Great. Yeah, we'll share all these out. And SVBC, we're going to be doing 2 events as well in June and July. So we'll share as we develop the details of that. We'll share that out. So we're going to move into our discussion part of this tonight. And so we all know that the infrastructure to get to the Bay Trail is important, and that's generally what we want to talk about. But we're really going to try to focus on the aspects of the trail, what makes it welcoming, what are some of the challenges, and those things tonight as we talk through this. So the first thing we're going to do is just a hands raised if you use the Bay Trail on your commute as a commuting part of your route. Let's just get a sense of how many people use the trail that way. Okay. Not many of you. That's fine. So I would guess that most of you primarily use the trail for recreation. Okay, Anthony, are you ready for the first word cloud? You want to share that out? So what we're going to do is we'll drop a link in the chat. Please click it. That's where you can enter in your information. And the prompt question will be, what words and phrases does the Bay Trail bring to mind? And then we'll see it populate as we go.
I love these things. They're so cool. Keep them coming, folks. Keep them coming. Freedom. Not my favorite one so far.
Freedom. That one kind of keeps coming in and out. Family friendly. It's windy, that's for sure. Nature, sea. It's refreshing and lovely. Cold moonlight. All right, we'll just give it one more minute. Get your last words or phrases in there.
It can be abstract. I think abstract is sometimes more descriptive. What it means to you.
All right. Great. Cool. All right, so next we're gonna have this will be a discussion question. And just to start us off, when you're riding along the trail, do you notice any differences between the city lines? Like, do you notice when you cross city lines? I think one thing that maybe I didn't hear in Lily's mentioning is that MTC is kind of, they don't actually implement the projects on the trail. And so the cities do maintenance and projects as throughout. So do we notice any differences, or can you tell? Feel free to unmute yourself.
I see a hand raised, Heather. You're in mute.
I don't see the hand. So if you have a hand up, just feel free to, or Chris Perry, there we go. Go ahead.
I don't really pay attention to the city boundaries, but I just noticed when the trail conditions change, like from gravel to dirt to paved. I know that East Palo Alto has some of the best trail conditions around us. I live in Mountain View. East Palo Alto is like fantastic. And then when you go over to Sunnyvale, it's often dirt and gravel. So I noticed the changes, but I don't know the exact city boundary.
Nahid also had her hand up.
Go ahead.
I have my husband commutes on the Bay Trail almost every day, and he's working right now, and he submitted a bunch of comments to me, and I just wanted to know, should I email them to someone or put them in the chat or where? I just wanted to speak for him. I don't use the trail in that way. I've only used it for recreation a few times, so. But
Sure.
I'd like to speak for him.
Drop it in the chat, and you can also email me separately if you want to.
Okay, sure.
And if you feel comfortable, you can read it out loud also.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to do that now? There's several points.
If you don't mind reading it out loud and then dropping it in the chat so we can have a record, that'd be great.
Sure.
Or maybe just do one like highlight comment and then drop the rest in the chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a few things, specific things. He says it would be nice if the section from the junction with St. Thomas Aquino Creek Trail to the junction with Stevens Creek Trail could be paved. And if the detours with sharp turns around Moffett Channel, Stevens Creek, Mountain View Slough could be cut off with new bridges. The University Ave Highway 484 intersection should have one over or underpass for bikes to get from the Dumbarton Bridge or East Palo Alto to the trail that loops around Hacker Way without having to stop and wait twice for the cars. So, and then there's a couple more too. Should I go on? Is there time, or is this the right place?
I think drop them in the chat for the specifics, but what I'm sensing and what I'm hearing is that there are parts of the trail that is just challenging,
Yeah.
broken up.
Yeah, to come from the peninsula to Santa Clara as he does. Yeah, there's some challenges. So I'll just do that in the chat then. Thank you.
Thank you. Silja, did I pronounce that correctly?
It's Celia, J's like a Y.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, so I agree that there's like sometimes connectability issues. For instance, I actually don't mind the gravel dirt. I kind of like that it slows people down as someone who bikes with my 4-year-old and keeps it at that recreational level. So it's sort of a design feature if they were aiming for recreation versus commuting. Maybe it's something to consider having kind of 2 parts to that. But I did notice, like when Sunnyvale was doing construction, that was the main time I really knew we were in Sunnyvale, because you got dumped onto the road on, what was that, Caribbean or something. So that's where I really noticed it. Otherwise, I really enjoy the kind of family-friendly nature of it right now.
Thank you. It's good feedback. Frank?
Yeah, hi. So I've, I used to commute on it daily. I'm retired now, but I never really was sure exactly where the city boundaries are. The main thing I could tell is when you were near Google, they at one point redid a bunch of the surfaces to make it a lot better, hold up a lot better in the rain. So you notice the different surfaces, but you can't really tell where one city ends and one city starts. And you notice the parts that are missing, like when you get to, there's an area like kind of around Milpitas where you have to get back on city streets and stuff. But, yeah.
Heather, you're on mute.
Thank you. One thing that the previous speaker brought up was the family-friendly slowing things down versus the faster bikes. So next question is, do we have you had any issues sharing the trail with other people? And if so, explain, please. Eric?
Yeah, I've used to commute on the Bay Trail to Foster City, and I'd run into a lot of times where there'd be a person walking a dog with one dog off to one side and one dog off the other side. So other than that, I haven't really had any problems with people that are usually nice, and but sometimes they need to be reminded that there's other people on the trail.
Frank?
Oh, sorry, I never lowered my hand. But yeah, actually I do have some. I guess I would say that on the commute hours, you don't see many pedestrians, and so it's you just, and you know, it's pretty sparsely used. Saturdays and Sundays, you know, it's actually very full of people, and you know, kind of best to either not ride it or ride very slowly and carefully.
Does anyone in this group walk on the trail, or is it all bike riding? I saw a hand. Gladwin, can you share an experience about that?
I walk and bike on the trail. Most of the walking that I do tends to be around Belmont and San Carlos. One problem that I ran into with the walking is for some reason, one of the Redwood City parking spots at the Kinder Shores they started posting that the parking lot was tow away for people who drove there. There is bike parking right at that spot that's on the trail itself. But I had thought that when the Bay Trail took place, it was an equity issue and they had to provide spots there for other people to get to that spot. So I was kind of surprised when it came up when I spoke to Redwood City Parks Department, and they said that the parking had never been there before, but I remember seeing signs there saying that it was Bay Trail parking. Anyway, that was the only issue I've had, but it's really not a big deal for me specifically, since I can ride my bike there and it's relatively easy to park there. I've been the only bike that's ever parked at the 5 bike spots there.
Thank you. I'm just going to go in order on my screen. Eleni? Are you just
Eleni?
voting that you walk, or do you want to share?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to echo the comment about dogs being off leash. And also hoping that there would be more trash receptacles and benches would make it more pleasant.
Thank you. Penny?
Thanks. So I mostly walk on the Bay Trails. My family are birders. We enjoy watching the birds out there and hiking. We usually bike to the Bay Trails, and we often find that there's not enough bike parking at trailheads. And I would say that's true in the community I live in, Palo Alto. I've also noticed that in Mountain View and Sunnyvale. My husband bike commutes to San Jose, though I don't think he's using the Bay Trails for that bike commute anymore. So I don't think I can ask him about that, but you know, those are my thoughts.
Thank you. David Cole?
Yes, I bike and walk on the Bay Trail, mainly birding and Palo Alto walking, and then occasional ride to San Jose on parts of the Bay Trail, and even all the way up to Hayward sometimes, or Oakland. But on any mixed trail, I saw one near the San Jose airport. There's a great little sign that said, "Keep right, pass left," because there's a lot of trail users that think they should walk opposite the direction, like they're a pedestrian in a car. And you just can't do that unless you have a super wide bike path. And so just a little reminder about, this is a mixed use trail. The simple sign, keep right, pass left, is, I think could do a lot to make the pathway friendly for everybody.
Thank you. Mark?
I walk, I run, I bike, and e-bikes. I've done all. I find biking and e-biking more fun because there's not a lot of, it's sort of out and back if you're walking or running. There aren't as many places that you'd actually go to as a destination. And I think people play pretty well on the trail. I think I echo the dog comment as well. That's probably the worst thing that happens is, dogs off leash and you've got to stop basically until the situation clears. But, walkers, runners, bikers, mostly, the slower people stay right, and mostly you can slow down and pass them and it's fine. So I'd say generally people play well. The way I use it a lot though is trying to get somewhere, like between particularly San Carlos and like getting to San Mateo or even up to Burlingame. It's kind of the safest way to get there in a lot of ways. And I find myself not, in my case, going south as much because there's so many breaks in the trail. It's not pleasant and sometimes not possible. So I guess I'd like to raise the theme of the trail being sort of like an artery that takes you places. And if there was better signage and if there were better sort of through routes from the trail, say into downtown San Mateo or into downtown Burlingame, I would use it even more.
Thank you. Tony?
So I bike the Bay Trail a lot at night between Palo Alto and Steens Creek Trail. And just want to make sure that trails are accessible at night, because some parks, they have signs that theoretically the parks are closed. I think the trails are open, but just to think about the night riding. Also, sometimes, the lights on overpass at night are extremely bright, which actually is a bit dangerous because when you come out of the overpass, then you suddenly have this dark tunnel you exit into. So that's something that, for designs, I think is important to think about. And the other thing is that reflective signs can also be very blinding because a lot of us have very bright headlights, but they are so blinding that you can actually lose vision for a little bit as you enter your underpasses. So just some things for design consideration.
Thank you. Carlos?
So I live in South San Francisco. So I basically only bike to get to the Bay Trail because it's just it's easier and fun to get there and just for recreation. If I were to get there and walk, I'd basically have to drive there. It's not very accessible. You have to cross the highway and stuff, but I'm trying to avoid driving. So that's, yeah, I only bike there, and it's not super practical from the North County because you get kind of to the airport and then you're dropped on a busy industrial park. So I'd say it's mainly used for recreation in my case.
Thank you. Anthony, are we ready for the next word association? Okay, so this one's gonna be, we're gonna have kind of a vision quest together. If you think about your favorite place on the bay, and we want you to put in words and phrases to describe what is welcoming to you about that spot, what draws you to that spot, the characteristics of it. And don't forget to click the link and put your answers there if you can, rather than in the chat so that we can see them all populate. Thanks.
And could you put the link and the number in the chat, please, so we can copy paste?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, I see, it looks like seating is a big one here. People want seating on the trail. Great views, peaceful, wildlife, scenic, and car-free. Great.
Some people find the loneliness welcoming. That's interesting. Actually, I kind of want to hear a little bit about why that is. Is it the solitude of not having a lot of people around? Is it being closer to nature? Is what do you, how do you define loneliness? That's an interesting one.
I think that one came from me because I think loneliness for me is that you're by yourself, but you could enjoy the nature and no noise around. So that's what I think what it is. I don't think it's really negative. It's I think more positive enough because then you could basically work out things in your brain that you're contemplating or trying to do some solution to anything you have in life. And I think that's a good way to go there and just basically, kind of talk to yourself maybe, and then get some answer from that.
Thank you. Yeah, solitude. All right, great. Let's do the last one. So this one can be, we'd like to do a word cloud, but you can also drop things in the chat too. What would you like to see added to the trail? We've touched on this a bit throughout the conversation, but also think not just physical things like I saw bathrooms and benches and making sure the gap closures or it's a continuous trail, but what else? What are we missing? Do we want events? Do we want historic signs? Do we want, we also talked about lighting, so all of those things, what things would we like to see added to the trail?
Anthony, can you post a link to this one?
Yes, it's the same link, y'all, but I'll post it one more time. It's the same link. I'll post it one more time. No, there it is. Brilliant.
Ice cream, I love it, and my 4-year-old and 7-year-old would love that too. Food, looks like cafes is a winning one. Shops nearby, historic signs. I'm really hearing the theme that this is an artery. This is someplace that we want to be part of our community. Events, I do see events. If anyone would like to share any type of event they would love to see happen on the Bay Trail, you can speak up. You don't have to drop in the chat.
We have some hands raised.
Okay,
Heather.
sorry, I'm not seeing. Okay. Carlos?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to have my hand raised.
No worries. Celia?
Yeah, so like I love all these things. I added some of my own as well. I think one of the unique things about the Bay Trail is it is through an ecosystem that's still very wild, and it's nice that there's a habitat there. And so I think that's the tricky balance, is wanting it to be a place for people to enjoy and appreciate while not taking away from the native animals that live there. So I loved the other person's note about some of the areas that are lit are actually too lit, because then it makes it so that when you go to the darker areas that are protected dark areas for the birds, it's hard to see. So it's actually, I think, almost a need to reduce lighting in some of the adjacent areas, and hopefully keep it as a place where we can share the space and not take away from the animals that live there.
Thank you. Eleni?
Cool. So this just occurred to me when I was in Taiwan a few months ago. They had hiking trails that had stalls for refreshments, and native tribal members were able to make money and stay on their land by selling snacks there and selling souvenirs and crafts and things like that. And in the States, that's not really our culture. In our open space, we don't have commerce or any type of, anything for sale really. But folks feel really comfortable and at ease when they have those kind of comforts nearby to them, a place to buy a soda or to buy a fresh snack or something like that. So in the spirit of creativity and getting ideas from other places, maybe we could consider um, supporting different types of amenities like that in our area.
Thank you. You got a thumbs up.
I want
Plus
to
one.
interject real quick and plus one on Lenny's point, and also encourage people to read the strategy, because that historical context is in there, and it talks about inequity in the present day, and with all the development that's going along, that's happening into the peninsula along the Bay Trail, that it's, there's displacement occurring, and it's just unfortunately affecting Black and Brown communities. So yeah, thinking of creative ways to having those communities still be there, be a part of its development and not get pushed away. I think that's, and then the environmental stuff too, I think is a really interesting dichotomy that's occurring along the Bay Trail. So that just reminded me of that, Lenny. So I really want to encourage everybody to read that strategy.
Penny.
Thanks. As I look at this list, what I see is a lot of stuff that sounds like it belongs in the city. And what I go to the Bay Trails for is nature. I worry that if we do cafes and shops and taco trucks and washrooms and signage and this is a very long list of human constructed stuff. What we won't have anymore is a preservation area for wildlife, which I hope we want to preserve.
Thank you. So I think those are two things that can work together if they're thought through well. I think there are parts of the trail that maybe it's not right on the trail, but it kind of maybe comes out and has some amenities without encroaching into that natural space. Gladwin.
I agree with the comment earlier about less light on the trail. I feel that it's much easier to see without any light. It's our eyes are capable of seeing in the dark, and there's generally a ton of light out on the Bay Trail when it's dark, from just moonlight as well as reflected light coming off the water. So I would go with the comment earlier about having a lot less light on the trail.
Okay, we have just a minute for any final thoughts, anything anyone is burning to say about the Bay Trail. Share it now. You will have other opportunities, so you don't have to hold your peace. David.
Yes, in the very beginning, I forget who posted it, but it was the use of e-bikes. And so Palo Alto has restricted that. And correction, the Palo Alto Bike Advisory Committee did not. That was not the recommendation. That was not the recommendation of staff. It was council that restricted the use on the Bay Trail. They said there was a paved path that, you know, you could get to the same place. So that's important. And the question was, what is SVBC's view on e-bikes? And they brought up AARP is taking this up as an equity issue. And I think that's a very pertinent discussion to have happen. Also with MTC, if local cities are shutting down the Bay Trail and MTC is kind of guiding this with their equities portion, then how does this play out? Do cities get to say no and shut down our less able people? So good discussion to be had there.
Thank you. I think we'll close it there for tonight. We're going to be having 2 events, as I said. Our work with the MTC is actually focused in San Mateo County for this. We're happy to have comments from everywhere, but our events are going to be in the city of San Mateo and South San Francisco. So they'll be in June and July, and we'll blast them out. We're also going to put out a survey where you can add in some more feedback. So I did see a question in the chat about where do we send our brilliant ideas we have tomorrow. So we'll have the survey you can add in, or you can also feel free to email Anthony or I. Can someone drop our emails in the chat? I'm sure everyone has them, but just so that they're there again. So survey, 2 events coming up, and then we're going to close out our feedback to the MTC on this strategy with one more kind of open discussion after we have these events, and we'll likely do that in our 2nd hour of the Bike Divis Forum in July. All right. Okay, we're gonna move on to we have 4 minutes, we're on time. We're gonna do our preface on Bike Month. Sanjay, do you want to share, or can you have them?
Sure. I'll prefer if you can share, but I just wanted to ask Lily if you had any closing thoughts before we move on to the next item.
Yeah. Thanks, Sanjana. And thank you, Heather and Anthony, for facilitating. I appreciate all the feedback from everyone. And yeah, I encourage everyone to go check out the equity strategy, like Anthony said. There's a lot more in there that I wasn't able to cover in the high-level overview, and we welcome kind of further written feedback through Silicon Valley Bike Coalition if you have more thoughts that come up after reading that, and to get involved in the other events. And so yeah, I just appreciate the interest and looking forward to hearing more from all of you. And I just wanted to really quickly touch on the e-bike topic, because a lot of people brought that up and it's very topical, but you know, MTC does not own or operate any of the pieces of the Bay Trail. It's many different local jurisdictions and parks organizations and lots of different owners. And so we're really there to provide guidance. And so we're working on putting together guidance for all of our partner agencies that build, operate, maintain the trail around e-bikes, and kind of dispelling some myths around it, and using some case studies and figuring out ways that we can safely have everyone be able to use the trail, whether they be on e-bikes or other modes, or being there to bird watch or do things that are less movement based. But we are definitely looking into the whole e-bike issue and trying to put together resources so that some of our partner agencies have a better understanding and more support around how this is an equity issue and how it opens up for a lot of different other users. So yeah, just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Okay. back to
Um,
our,
I'm ready to share, Heather.
oh, you're gonna share your screen?
Hmm.
Or do you want me to? I think I just did.
Okay. Thanks, Lily. And moving on to the next part, which is Bike to Wherever Days, because Bike Month is coming up soon. And what is Bike to Wherever Days? It is SVBC's transformation of the traditional Bike to Work Day because of the change that COVID brought into our lives. It's a 3-day celebration that's going to be from May 18th to May 20th, and it'll be held in conjunction with Bike Month.
Woohoo! Sorry, I gotta
uh,
inject some enthusiasm because I'm like stoked for this.
All good, hands, like keep it coming. So we're going to have a traditional Bike to Work Day on Thursday, May 18th, which will have a lot of Energizer stations and the same fun that original Bike to Wherever Days or Bike to Work Days brought. And there will be 2 bike bashes on May 18th, one in San Mateo County, which will be at the Cognition Bike store in San Mateo City, and one in Palo Alto. And then the fun continues with Bike to Wherever Days on Friday and Saturday with more events and Energizer stations across both the counties. Check our website for more details on that front. And in the meantime, just running through a list of what's happening in Bike Month. First of all, pledge to ride if you haven't done that already, and try to get this across to all your friends and families. This is a great opportunity to get people on their bikes, experience how it is to bike to work or to groceries or even for a recreation ride. And once they start liking it, they will do it more often. So make sure to just get your friends and families to pledge to ride. Energizer stations. The last day to register an Energizer station is April 21st. So if you and your teams have not done that so far, do it right now. And if you want to be at an Energizer station, but you don't know how to do so, or if you're only one person, you would rather volunteer, we have opportunities to do that as well. So there will be a list of Energizer stations where you can go out and volunteer and meet your fellow passionate bicyclists in your areas. Then our
And recruit
programs,
more members. That's how we have a few of our members now from our Energizer station at Murphy Street a couple of years ago now.
Thanks, Hans. Yes, and recruit more members to SVBC, to local teams, and so they can join these forums and advocate for better biking in your areas. The third part is programs. So our programs team is conducting a lot of classes, workshops, and rides across Bike Month. So you can check our Bike Month calendar to learn about all these events happening. The Bike Month calendar also has listed partner events which are happening from other areas. So make sure to check that as well. And finally, Cities Challenge. All of you who are following us on social media, you see Menlo Park is leading on this front. We've created a competition between cities to see which city is able to get the maximum pledges. So push your city to make sure they win this challenge. And this will go through the end of May. And last but not the least, these are the various ways you can volunteer. You can volunteer with handing out prizes, be at the bike bashes, be a bike ambassador at an Energizer station. And last but not the least, just get people to pledge to ride. So that's all about Bike Month. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us.
Hey, Sandhya, is there not a Viva Calle San Jose this weekend?
Yes.
I see very little publicity, but I just found out about it today.
Yes, there are 3 Viva Calles, and San Jose has posted the 3 dates already. There is one this weekend on Sunday. Then there is one in June, which the date I'm forgetting, and there is one on September 10th. So all the 3 dates are posted already.
Great, thank you.
Announce the date for June. Yeah.
Thanks.
Eleni, you...
Oh, well, since we're just talking about trails, we're also having another trails ride. It's a cleanup ride in San Jose. So if you'd like more information, just let me know. I'll be in the San Jose room. We're partnering with Valley Water and the San Jose Conservation Corps, April 29th.
Thanks, Eleni. And before we jump into our breakouts, I just had one last announcement. We're conducting a local team survey right now. We just want to understand how your experience has been so far as a part of a local team member, which are the bike activist forums you like, which you haven't liked. what are some places where you would like to see more guidance or more support from the SVBC team? It's a fairly short survey, should not take more than 3 minutes. And if you've done that, great. If you haven't done that so far, please do that ASAP. Thank you.
All right, great. Anthony, you want to open up the breakout rooms? And thank you all so much for all of your feedback. Like I said, we'll be putting it all together, giving it to MTC. We're going to have other events on this, so it's not your last opportunity to speak about the Bay Trail.
Thanks, you guys. It's great.
Thank you. All right. Breakout rooms are open.
You should be able to move yourself into your breakout room. If you're having issues or you'd like us to do it, please unmute yourself and let me know, and then I can move you.
Breakout room, where are you?
I think I'm having problem finding the breakout room, so can you guide me to it?
I got you.
Okay.
Anyone else who's not familiar, it's in the ... more.
Yeah. And if you're looking for the Santa Clara County teams, they're at the bottom because San Mateo County did the list.
North, south, top down, right?
Yeah. Where am I? Oh, yeah.
Not
I
finding
got-
it. I guess
I-
you have to move me.
You have to
Okay.
hit the more, the dots. It's okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, I'm not.
I-
I see that,
I
but it's not
gotcha.
there.
I gotcha.
Carlos, I got your message.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Anthony, did you mean to move Leslie to the city of San Mateo?
I did not move her there. I think she
Oh.
did that. Let me
Okay.
move her up to North San Mateo.
Okay. There's Sonia.
Do you want to stay here or do you want me to stay here?
No, I'm gonna go to San Carlos.
Anthony,
Okay.
can you move me to Palo Alto?
You got it. Lets me do it. Let's try that again.
Got it.
Hey, Peter.